Good day, folks. Everything new under the sun. Well, this just happened. The Archduke Ferdinand moment leading to World War III. Slovak Prime Minister just had an attempted assassination on him. This is a War News 247. Assassination attempt on Arfitso. Smell of World War III. The statements hastened his execution and washing of the British media. It says the darkest moments of European history are brought back by the attempted assassination of the Prime Minister of Slovakia. An attempt reminiscent of the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand of Austria, which then led to the First World War. It says the development is very unpleasant for Europe, as it seems that anyone who deviates from the common war policy against Russia is at risk of assassination. What does that mean translated to regular everyday English for you and I? If you don't toe the line, if you don't spout the narrative you're being told on mainstream media, you may be deleted. This is what they're suggesting here. When even moderate leaders of Europe are at risk of execution or assassination, then some have already decided on the line to be followed, and that is none other than the conflict to the end. So follow the conflict to the end. It says Alina Panina, director of the Institute of Russian Strategic Studies, emphasized that if the initiators of the Western plan for a major war, whether in the U.S. or in Europe, began to kill politicians, then this is the clearest example of what an order based in rules. I think they don't have any rules now. If they're killing politicians, rules have gone out the window, basically. And it says typical washing by British media. British media came out and said, well, effectively they suggested that, well, it's okay because, well, he was a bad guy. He was pro-Russia. Robert Fico has become very pro-Russian, it says, and this is Sky News. He is a very divisive figure in Slovakia and in Europe, so it's not surprising that such an event happened. The fact that they're flippantly talking about the attempted assassination of a world leader, a nation's leader, is incredible. And this is the news we're being fed. If you don't follow the narrative, you may be deleted. So, remember we were Austria, Archduke Ferdinand from Austria. Well, Hungary, Slovakia, and Austria are all now resisting the pan-European line of support for Ukraine and undermining the general consensus, which is currently very anti-Russian. If you're not anti-Russian, the world is, against you effectively, at least the Western world. So here's what happened. According to available information, which immediately began to spread, Prime Minister Fico was hit by 2 to 3 wounds, it says, I think shots. Allegedly, there were gunshots, allegedly in the limb, chest, and abdomen. It is said that up to 4 and 5 shots should have been fired, according to information by Plus 7 Days Weekly. Someone from the crowd called out, "Robo, come here," and the shooting started. It's a gunshot wound to the abdomen and arm. He is currently out of danger. They're going to operate on him, a well-informed source said. Meanwhile, so this is a guy on the ground. I think this is a guy that they captured, put him in cuffs. So they captured the guy, absolutely. But again, when leaders who, apparently this guy came out just the day before speaking against the World Economic Forum, and I think it was against the WHO, the World Health Organization, and their interest in basically getting all nations to toe the line and to be ruled by the WHO. He came out in opposition to all that, and of course he's also, supposedly pro-Russian. Interesting that these assassinations are happening. I'm sure it's a coincidence. Incredible. So this is the same news from Azir Hedge. So, meanwhile, here is this is about the question about why are there no peace negotiations. Now, I've been asking this for a while, and I've been suggesting that to you that Russia was willing to talk peace, but Zelensky, Ukraine, and specifically the West don't really have any interest in it. Oops, sorry, my microphone was muting there. It says Russia is about to overrun Ukraine's defenses. Remember, we were being told that Ukraine is winning the battle. All mainstream media outlets said Ukraine is winning, Ukraine is winning. The truth is coming out slowly, but they don't want to talk peace. Why? Because there's a lot of monetary interests in this. The West, the United States, doesn't want to end this war. There are two classic propaganda narratives used by governments when it comes to keeping the public invested in any war campaign that does nothing to advance their national interests. First, there's a commitment lie. Now, these lies are similar to what they told us during COVID. It says a commitment lie, which says that once you step into the support a war effort, then you must stay exponentially committed, even if the war is exposed as pointless. Anytime the public pulls back from the war in a bid to reconsider what purpose it serves, they are ridiculed for potentially risking lives. Think of that as to what happened during, the events of the pandemic. Basically, that similar situation where if you started to talk against it, boy, you were outcast. You were a conspiracy theorist, weren't you? This I'm not even talking about COVID, and this video is probably going to get banned for saying that about it. It's incredible. By the way, there's a class action suit against Google and Google and YouTube for censorship related to the pandemic. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how that goes. That's in Quebec, Canada. Money is going to be awarded if they find that to be true and unlawful. And I kind of think they will at this point. Anyways, the second lie is the domino effect, which says that if you allow a particular enemy to win one conflict, they will automatically be emboldened to invade other countries until they own the entire planet, similar to Hitler and how he moved across. Now, I'm not saying these are incorrect. I'm not saying this is something that would never happen or can happen, and as if I can see into the future. But I think you're assuming something when you suggest that maybe Russia wants to take over the whole world. Probably not. Probably Russia wants the old Soviet states back. And that's really as much as Putin has come out and said in the past. He wants Mother Russia back together, which includes countries like Ukraine and some of the Baltic states and these sorts of things that used to be part of the USSR, etc. And so he may want that back. Is he interested in taking over the world? Probably not. It says in the U.S., we heard both of these narratives in the recent congressional vote for billions more in monetary and logistical aid to Ukraine. No amount of spending funds or arms are going to help them, and it has nothing to do with conservatives questioning the validity of war spending. This is especially true in a war of attrition, and this is what it is. They're trying not to go to nuclear war, but both sides are trying to grind each other down to see if they can win a war by simply a war of attrition, by grinding the other side down until they're bankrupt. I think nuclear war is going to come before Russia ever lets it get to that point. That's for sure. As for the West, I don't know. I think the West thinks it has enough resources to grind Russia to the ground. But when China steps into it, the manufacturing behemoth of the world, look out. It goes on, and this is the state of Ukraine right now. With Ukraine's grid heavily damaged, a large portion of the population would leave the cities and head for Europe until the war played out. Putin has specifically avoided major fighting within larger urban centers for a reason. Driving civilians out of metropolitan areas would make it easier for Russia to strike Ukraine in a secondary offensive without risking extensive collateral damage in the form of civilian casualties. This is exactly what happened. So Russia's holding back. They don't want a huge number of civilian casualties. They're doing what they need to do to win the war, but it would be easy for Russia if the civilians got out of there, and they could completely destroy these cities. It says almost 7 million Ukrainians left the country outright in the past 2 years. Another 6 million displaced. Currently, Russia is moving to push civilians out of Kharkiv, Ukraine's second biggest city, and will probably be successful given their momentum and destruction of the water power sources. Mainstream analysts claim the push towards Kharkiv might be a feint allowing Russia to increase the size of its buffer zone. So Russia's winning this. It says Russia has gained considerable ground. And again, at this point, you got to say, okay, Russia seems to be winning. For all intents and purposes, Russia is winning this. It's going to take significant Western hardware and probably troops on the ground to push the tide in the other direction. And nobody wants that, I think. No citizens of the United States or Canada or Australia or Britain want that. So why not go to the table and talk peace? Why not consider, land for peace or something like that? In this case, they say land for peace in Israel. Why wouldn't that work in Ukraine, right? Well, there's no interest in that. That's because there's a lot of money being made. And by the way, when the economy is about to fail, what do countries do? They take you to war. I think Gerald Celente is the one who says that, and I believe that to be true as well. To cover up the fact that they mismanaged the economy and they increased debt and brought trillions of dollars into thin air and just increased debt so much so that we couldn't pay it. What do they do to cover the politicians' bottoms there? Well, they take you to war and they say, well, it was the war's fault that our economy crashed. And meanwhile, all that wealth has been transferred to the top 1% of the richest folks. And they take all that and we all get poorer. It says, the bottom line is that Ukraine is about to be overrun. So again, why not talk peace? This dynamic demands that diplomatic solutions be entertained, but no one is talking about it. Why? As I've theorized in my article, World War III is now inevitable. The underlying plan may very well be to try and force Americans and Europeans to accept an expanding war with Russia. They're trying to get the citizens, not scare them, but slowly bring them into agreement to go to absolute all-out war with Russia, that NATO. The Western public has been bombarded with lies about Ukraine's ability to win, saying, Ukraine was winning, and they're not. When they lose, people will be shocked and incensed by the outcome. They absolutely will. Many elites hope their populace will be so angry about the loss that they will rally around a larger war effort, in an attempt to save Ukraine, I guess. The French government has already asserted that they are willing to send troops to Ukraine in direct confrontation with Russia, while Lithuania and Poland have said that they will not rule that out. Now is the time for peace negotiations, says the article writer. Before Ukraine is overrun, will this happen? Probably not, but when diplomacy is removed from the table completely, the only conclusion we can come to is that a greater war is desired. That's key. If they're not talking about peace, a greater war is desired. Again, to cover up financial and economic ruin and collapse, and to save the U.S. world reserve currency, the U.S. dollar. When greater war is desired, we also have to conclude that our leadership has something substantial to gain by putting the world at risk. Our leadership has something substantial to gain by putting the world at risk. How about a lot of money and power? You might be on the side of Ukraine, you might be on the side of Russia, you might not care about either side, but there's no denying that this war is being escalated by special interests, and we need to ask why. And that really is a brilliant way to end that article and that talk about, the fact that we're heading to World War III, and NATO in the West is not talking about peace. They're not interested in peace. I need to get that through to people's heads. No one's interested in peace. No one's saying, come to the table like they do, like they tell Israel to do all the time. How about come to the table? How about land for peace? How about you give this and that for peace? How about you give them a bunch of money for peace? No one's saying that, in Russia. It's a different ballgame there, apparently. The fact is that what it looks like right now, regardless of the narrative they're telling us, it looks like the West, NATO is interested in continuing this war. It does not look like they have any interest in stopping the war. Russia looks like they have had interest in coming to a peace deal, coming to an agreement, having a peace deal and limiting NATO's expansion. But NATO's not willing to talk about it. And when there have been peace deals, Zelensky was pulled back from them or was kiboshed by NATO or Western powers. And there's nothing serious on the table from the West at any point. We're heading to World War III. I think the Horsemen of the Apocalypse describe a time when there's World War III, economic collapse, and worldwide famine. And if there is economic collapse and worldwide famine, what happens? Well, they take you to war. They take you to war to cover that up. So I'll leave that there. Archduke Ferdinand moment with this Slovak prime minister. Now, it looks like he's going to survive. Is there going to be another attempted assassination of another leader who happens to be pro-Russian? Is this like the bombing of the Nord Stream pipeline? Who done it? You know, it must have been a Russian separatist or something, right? It couldn't have been anybody from the West or NATO or on that side of things. Interesting. And he well, was against the WHO, against the World Economic Forum, and he gets shot. So who will the next one be? And will the next one really comprise, you know, what happened in World War I, which triggered World War I, the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand of Austria? I'll leave it there, guys. Something to think about. We'll see you in the next video.